What is up, you guys? Another episode of Sports Rants with Abby and friends. I'm Abby, of course, and I got my two friends here. We got Guy, we got Gene. How y'all both doing?
I'm fantastic now that I'm a friend.
You've always been a friend, Logan.
No, but now I'm one of the friends on
friends. It's an exclusive little circle. Guy, how are you doing?
Doing great. Happy to be here.
We got a lot to talk about and a lot of quick things to kind of mention too. Obviously, we got NBA Finals talk. We had some golf this weekend too. But let's get into just a couple of quick things. Obviously, we have a repeat with the Stanley Cup. Florida Panthers got it done. I know, Guy, you're happy there. How are you feeling about that?
Good. I think the best team won. You know, they repeated something that's very hard to do in hockey. And they beat a very good Oilers team. And hockey lives in Florida, man.
Hockey does not live in Arizona, I'll tell you that much.
Not anymore, at least.
Yeah, we could care less about all of that. You know, I was all for the Coyotes staying here. They had a beautiful, renovated area, near Scottsdale, and I was, all about that. It looked like a nice complex, and I was like, we could go here. But, I mean, they have the Coyotes playing at Arizona State, where Arizona State hockey plays. Oh. So it just wasn't the best fit. But, Gene, how do you feel about the Panthers winning?
You know, I mean, listen, I guess my new local team would be really the Lightning, and I am a Ranger fan, so I pretty much hate the Panthers. But, you know, listen, it's exciting to see a lot of people down here in Florida. I think because Florida is not really your hockey place. I feel like everyone just adapts. You know, when the Lightning are good, Florida is a Lightning state. When the Panthers are good, it's a Panther state. And I got to see some people enjoy the win last night. You know, it sucks to not see Connor McDavid, the guy who's been the best player in the world for the last few years, still not be able to get it done. I think that's really what we're all waiting for at this point. You know, especially hockey fans, they got to be like, this guy's, you know, it's like we're watching Marino all those years not get it done, Guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just the records, no ring, but it's okay.
Yeah.
And then in some other breaking news right before this, a record-breaking sale. The Lakers have been sold to Mark Walters, obviously the owner of the Dodgers, obviously now in very good hands. Gene, was that surprising to you at all?
It came out of nowhere. I don't even remember hearing anything come about. Did anybody hear anything about this? Or did it just come out of nowhere for everybody else too? All of a sudden I see Shams posting it on Instagram. Wait, it was and it came up on my feed literally 1 minute after he posted it. I was like, wait, what's happening? So I think the prettiest owner in all of sports is now she's just going to be the governor of the Lakers, which I really don't know what that means. I guess she's still running the show. So
neither do I. I mean, it was a $10 billion sale, the most in any sport. I mean, this is literally look at Johnny Boy. We'll get into that, Johnny Boy. I posted the whole video on it. But originally Lakers were bought for $67.5 million and now a $10 billion team. Obviously, like I said, in good hands with same owner as the Dodgers. It just kind of makes sense. He already had some shares in there. Guy, what do you think about this? Was it surprising to you?
I mean, it's not surprising because I think those guys that own the Dodgers, they want big investments and they want to make the Lakers kind of like the Dodgers of the NBA. So with getting Luka, the gift of Luka, I should say, and starting that whole new generation of Lakers basketball, I think it's a good move for them.
I mean, get out while it's good. And I'm kind of not surprised simply because of what happened with the Celtics as of recently, too. So that's the only reason it wasn't a shocker. And it seemed like if people in her circle knew that she wasn't going to do this forever. So it didn't seem too surprising for them. But I think to those obviously common people like us, it's probably a little bit more shocking.
Guy just made me, made the sensors go off, right? It just makes me think, Could the NBA have already known that this was going to go down months ago in order to sweeten the? Is that what you were kind of alluding to, Guy? Because that's what it made me think. Like all of a sudden, like that, what they're like, she might have went to like Nosferatu and said, "Listen, I don't plan on being here forever. We want to make some moves and see if we can get this team sold." And in order to make it even more attractive, they get this trade for Luka. It's something smells fishy, man. It just really does, And listen, I don't think any of us can trust anything when Nosferatu is lurking about. The worst commissioner in basketball history. So
agreed.
I mean, like I said, in good hands still. It's not like they had bad ownership ever. You know what I mean? So that was not ever an issue at all. So, but definitely breaking news there. So let's transition a little bit to some older news, I should say. Not too old, but still recently. I wanted to talk a little bit about Aaron Rodgers because he finally signed with the Steelers, which we all knew was coming. Finally shows up. We see him wearing number 8. Guy, what are your thoughts about it?
It's just the newest scene of the Aaron Rodgers saga. At this point, he's just doing whatever he wants, and they're giving him a platform to do it. I don't really think this move really moves the needle for the Steelers that much, but it's a headline grabber, and if he gets a little bit of what he used to be, they might be a wild card team with that defense, but I'm not betting on that though.
And that's exactly what I was about to ask you. Do you think this moves the needle or really makes the Steelers competitive? Gene, what do you think?
I think they're going to go 8-9 this year. I think they'll be competitive in half their games because they'll win half the games. But I just don't think that. I think they got a little bit of a whiff of what we got the last year with him showing up to training camp late, it being a me guy. I've been saying it since day one about this guy. I don't think they're going to be happy with him. I really don't. He's going to throw somebody under the bus. It's only a matter of time before him and Tomlin get into a little altercation verbally on either the sideline or in the press room, or tweeting about each other or whatever have you. The only thing is Tomlin's more well suited to handle it than Saleh was last year, right? So I just don't like that. I just can't stand him, and I hope he falls flat on his face. And I hope it totally implodes by mid season. I'm the most fan of the Steelers. Let me say that number one, and number two, I can't stand Aaron Rodgers even more than I can't stand the Steelers. So he's their problem now. I'm not surprised that it happened. We all knew it was going to happen. It just shows you how little of a team guy he is that he made them wait so long. So good riddance. He's their problem now.
I know. And I mean, me and you, obviously being Jets fans, had very different opinions on Aaron Rodgers. I was all for having him back in 2025. And you know what? I get why he wasn't there. And I fully have embraced a new regime. I like what we're doing so far. I just want that to translate kind of into wins there. But I mean, week 1 obviously just got a lot more exciting considering Aaron Rodgers will be making his return to MetLife Stadium. Of course, Justin Fields now facing his former team, and the NFL came out and said that when they put this game on the schedule that's exactly why they were doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we'll see who's going to end up getting the revenge there. Will it be Rodgers? Will it be Justin Fields? Now, let me tell you, the one thing I can't stand is that people automatically assume now that they got Rodgers that week 1, they're just going to go off on the Jets. And I don't think that's the case at all. And Will McDonald has been looking very good on that edge. You best believe that they are going to blitz his ass week 1. And I'm already counting how many sacks we're going to get. We got Jermaine Johnson back. He acts like he's going to have an easy time. You know what I mean? So we got some weapons too. I don't think this is automatically like a blowout game and that Rodgers is going to go off. You hope he falls flat on his face. I don't. I actually hope he does well. Of course, not week 1 though. And we got Johnny Boy saying, F Aaron Rodgers kicked his ass game 1 and show a strong message to the league. This is Fields' revenge game. And that's what I'm saying. They're giving so much credit to Rodgers and not Fields, as if he doesn't have a chip on his shoulder. You know what I mean? When he was taken out, they were still winning. And he's kind of like, it's like a big F you to him. We got a much younger guy. So we'll see what ends up happening. But kind of to continue on that topic, who do you think has more pressure? Is it Mike Tomlin or is it Aaron Rodgers? Gene, I'm going to let you go first.
Well, here's the thing. Is it pressure from the press? Is it pressure from internally? Johnny Boy says, and the Dolphins still suck, just so you know that.
Point that out there.
Okay.
So you know what it is? I think knowing a lot of Steeler fans, I feel like half the Steeler fans I know, and I know a bunch of them, half of them can't stand Mike Tomlin, and half of them love Mike Tomlin. I have a good friend of mine. He's actually on the show. One of the kids on Rookies of the Year, not on the show, on the channel. He's on Rookies of the Year. He calls him mediocre Mike. Can't stand himself some Mike Tomlin, right? Every season blames him for just winning just enough games to not get a good draft pick. But I kind of feel like there's more pressure on Mike Tomlin. We've seen recently came out that he's kind of working on a year-to-year deal with Pittsburgh. That makes it easier for them to say, yeah, you know what, it's not really working out. Did he rush and go to get Aaron Rodgers? Was it the front office? Was it a combination of the two? I don't really know, but I'll tell you what. If they have a losing season, it's going to be more on Tomlin, and here's the reason why. Because if it's not, Aaron Rodgers is just going to walk off into the sunset, going right into Canton. He's got nothing to worry about. There's no pressure on Aaron Rodgers because if he embarrasses himself, I don't even think he cares because he's all about himself, and he'll internally blame somebody else. DK Metcalf is all, looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane. He'll come up with something to say, and it won't be his fault, even if it is. So really, I really do think the pressure is all going to be on Mike Tomlin because Aaron Rodgers is not going to feel the pressure because he doesn't care enough. He, at this point in his career, does not care enough. He wants the limelight, and that's all he cares about. He'll still, even way after he retires, he'll still be on Pat McAfee every week. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He's going to have things that he can do. Mike Tomlin. And that's the thing, too, is where does Mike Tomlin go with this? Because if this works and then you lose him and then you're starting over anyway, or if it doesn't work, does it mean he's on, he's off? We'll find out. It's good, but it's definitely more Mike Tomlin.
Now, I'm going to have you chime in here in just a second. But Gene, I know we didn't agree as a group, but do you think that Mike Tomlin and the staff and personnel for the Steelers think that having Aaron Rodgers makes them a playoff team and can get them a playoff win?
Well, obviously, I think they think that because I don't think they don't need to sell tickets, right? They don't need to sell tickets even on the road. People, they travel. So they didn't get him here. It's not like they're I don't know, like Jacksonville. And they're like, oh, well, that Jacksonville's a quarterback. But, all those years of Jacksonville really being bad, they just need to, get somebody in the stadium. It's not like they're in that sense where they just want to fill a stadium up. They're just trying to fill seats. They're going to be packed out anyway. So I think they must really think that it's going to work for them, right? I just don't think it's going to. I mean, it's also the best option available, right? He's better than what they have anyway. There's nobody else really on the free market that they can go out and get that will be any better than him. Not that it makes him great. Maybe on the trade market, but I can't see them making the playoffs. I think they'll go 8-9 and miss the playoffs.
I mean, so Rodgers is making about $13 million off of this 1-year deal. It's like a $3 million base salary, and then I think they worded $10 million as a signing bonus, but they put a hell of a lot of incentives that can bring him up to about $19 million. And that includes playoffs, that includes MVP. And I'm like, where that obviously we saw last year what he was with the Jets. You know what I mean? So yeah. I agree with you. I don't think Aaron Rodgers has any pressure. It's not going to matter. He's still getting paid by the New York Jets on top of that. So yeah, Guy, why don't you go ahead and chime in here?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I think Tomlin has more of the pressure. He's been the constant that's in Pittsburgh, right? So he's been running the show, so most of the responsibility is going to be on him. The Aaron Rodgers is basically a mercenary 1 year. Let's see if we can get lightning in a bottle type kind of move. I don't expect much from a 40-something-year-old quarterback, playing in a tough conference, a tough division. I mean, why not? They had no other alternatives, I guess. So this is, here, let's get a future Hall of Famer and see what happens kind of move. But like you said, Rodgers has no pressure at all. He doesn't care. He's getting paid. He does what he does, and he just moves to the beat of his own drum. He's always done that, and it's only a matter of time before they really clash and it comes to a boiling point. At what point of the season, I don't know. If it starts off bad, it could be earlier in the season, but I would have realistic expectations if I'm them, and not think, oh yeah, it's Super Bowl or bust because we have Aaron Rodgers, or even a deep playoff run. That's really not realistic. But maybe if everything goes right, they might get a wild card spot, but I don't see that happening. They're like Gene said, maybe 8-9, maybe a little worse.
We'll answer that question in a minute, Johnny boy. But no, I'm right there with you guys. It's a weird dynamic. He didn't get along with Robert Saleh, Aaron Rodgers, I'm referring to. So I don't know how he's going to go ahead and get along with Mike Tomlin, because he's also, like, to me, like a no BS type of person. Yeah. And we already saw how that with Aaron Glenn, how supposedly that conversation went. You best believe Mike Tomlin has similar energy. He's going to match it. You know what I mean? And I don't know at what point it's like, sure, you're having winning seasons. I wouldn't know what that's like because we're Jets fans, but it's like, that's still not good enough. And that's not what Pittsburgh wants. They are a championship organization. You know what I mean? And I think all the pressure's on Mike Tomlin. Can you go ahead and put up that Johnny Boy's question really quickly? I think it was about the grass at MetLife.
Thoughts on the FIFA World Cup going on right now. Crazy how fast they turned MetLife into a grass field, and why they can't do that for the NFL. Beyond me.
Who knows?
The soccer players that played the other day were actually complaining about the grass.
Really? Were they? I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
What'd they say?
They said that it wasn't, it's still not, it doesn't feel good on the legs.
Doesn't feel natural?
Yeah, it doesn't feel natural. So, I mean, they just put that grass on there for this tournament. But let's see, because the World Cup is next year too. So,
as a guy that's been so entrenched in the NBA Finals, the Stanley Cup Finals, the baseball season, trades galore, Kevin Durant rumors, I don't even know the FIFA World Cup games are going on right now. I had no idea that
Club World Cup.
The Club, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
So I almost don't even know what FIFA is at this point, man. We got to wait until a little bit later in the summer when it's just baseball. So
I did know it was next year. I knew about the grass being installed, but I'm not too up to date either with the soccer. But I mean, they're complaining about the grass they just put in. It's better than the turf that they had. So it's like, take what you can get, because trust me, you ain't gonna want it the other way around.
No, ask who was it, Bosa? Ask Nick Bosa from 2 years ago how he liked it. So
really quickly too, am I correct that TJ Watt is also holding out?
He is holding out. And everyone seems to think it's going to be a done deal that he's coming back. He wants like 30-something million. But people forget he's on the listen, has he shown signs of slowing down? No. But he's on that other side where you can expect it to come any year now. And he wants 30 million a year or across however many years. I get the hesitation by Pittsburgh. It doesn't, depending on how much he wants going into the future, it makes sense for them not to like blow their checkbook, especially when they are going to have to worry about a quarterback in the next few years, whether it be trade or, I mean, they could draft, I guess, but I think that's really what they're concerned about is if we're going to trade for a quarterback next year or we're going to sign a quarterback next year, we need to have this money available. But if they're going to draft one, well, then they can sign him and it doesn't hurt as bad.
Mm-hmm. Before we move on, Gene, one more question about the New York Jets, really quickly. Obviously, they've been in talk with Sauce and Garrett as far as an extension. Do you see those being done anytime soon?
Yeah, I hope so. Get the Garrett one done. He hasn't had a chance to have real good quarterback play. Even last year, I don't even consider his stint with Aaron Rodgers even to be that great, because just as Aaron Rodgers got a little bit better, they brought in another receiver to kind of take his spot. Also, a lot of those stats at the end of the year by Rodgers were cooked up by losing games. Get that done. I think last year, when we look back at 10, 12 years from now at Sauce's career, I think we're going to look at season 3 as an anomaly. I think that he is way more talented than he played last year, and I think he needed last year to kind of get to the other side. I think he's going to be fantastic this year. I think having Aaron Glenn as his coach is going to make him a better corner, and I think he's going to come back to where we had him those first 2 years. The talent level is there, so I would love to get them both done before the start of the season. It's going to be tough because you got them both going, but simultaneously. But I at least got to have one done before the start of the season. Give me at least one. Give me Garrett at least. I want Garrett coming in nice and happy.
You know, Garrett's my favorite. I'm like, give him whatever he wants, literally.
Whatever he wants.
I always defend him just simply because he hasn't had a quarterback.
Yeah.
And that's why his statistics are the way that they are. If you've had that terrible of quarterback play, Guy, it does kind of affect you. You know what I mean? If he's going to be a Jet for life, if any of these are going to be Jet for life, they are going to affect you. Do you think a deal is going to get done with Sauce and Garrett?
I think eventually you got to take care of the guys, your star players. This is a league that's prioritizes the skill positions. So, definitely I would say Wilson I would sign him first, lock him down. Let's see if Gardner bounces back, to Gene's point, and we'll talk next year. But I say this year try to get Wilson done and refocus on other things. But having them both, those clouds over your head, you want to prioritize,
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's good that they're both showing up and not doing any of them. I'm holding out and I'm not going to participate until I'm being paid or whatever. You know how these guys do nowadays, which I get it. They've rightfully earned the right to do that. But all right, real quick, we're going to do one last question and then I swear we're going to move on to a winning team in the OKC Thunder. But it is too much for an extension. I would say 30 to 35 for G. Wilson and same for Sauce. I agree with you, Johnny Boy. I think 35 is a little bit too high for both, but in that range is absolutely okay with me. Gene?
I agree. My thing is the reason why listen, I'm just so nervous of Wilson not signing, going someplace else and catching 150 balls for 2,100 yards with 18 touchdowns. And I know I'm over exaggerating, but he's got such immense talent with no quarterback. Could you imagine if he played on Kansas City, or he played in LA with the Chargers, or in one of these other places that can really utilize his skill set that we haven't been able to utilize yet. And that's something too, is we haven't even really seen the tip of the iceberg with this guy. Could you imagine what we're going to be able to unlock when we have a guy that can unlock it's going to be like a cheat code. He's going to put in the cheat code when we get this quarterback, and I'm hoping it's Fields. They have the time in the past together. They look great in college together, but you're going to see a whole nother side of Garrett Wilson that we have Jet fans have yet to see. And that's why my thing is just get it done. If he wants a little bit more than you think he's worth, because he hasn't put up certain numbers, remember the best is yet to come with Garrett Wilson. So give him a little extra than what he's earned already. You know what I mean?
I agree. And with the new staff too, I just think they're going to unlock a whole different potential with him as well. And also
let's also not forget too, one of the knocks on previous regimes in for the New York Jets as that's gone on for the past few regimes, we haven't seen them take care of their draft picks for a second go around for the most part yet. And I think that's got to be something in this front office's head now, saying, listen, no, these other regimes, they weren't able to get it done. We got some studs here. Let's start showing that we are New York Jets. We're a different New York Jet front office organization, and we're going to take care of our guys that we feel deserve to be here long term. They haven't done that for the longest time. I'm hoping this is where we have that turnaround.
Well, and then I think Quinnen that was like a big shock because they had never done it. You know what
I
mean?
Yeah, he was like the first one in a long, long time.
And really quickly, I know we're talking about the Jets. I know.
It's hard.
But Johnny Boy also brought up the New York Jets signing out of the UFL, the thicker kicker, Harrison Mavis. I don't know if you've seen this dude. He's huge. 6 foot, like 242 pounds. Played at Mizzou, was pretty good there. Obviously went undrafted and signed with the Panthers, but he was beat out by another Jet, Eddie Pinheiro there. And he was good in the UFL. And now obviously he's got to battle it out with what's his name that we Anders Carlson
was actually just released.
Caven Davis.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's our other undrafted free agent. So thought I'd just go ahead and touch on that since Johnny Boy mentioned it. All righty. He is
a monster, and he hopefully he can play a little D tackle too, because we're a little short there. You could use.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, can he do like a lineman?
So, but 20 of 21 in the UFL. I think only his longest kick was only 56 yards, which right, if that's all he. I don't know if he missed longer. I don't know. I just know the longest make he had was 56. But he only missed one, so I mean, who knows what that was? So
right. All right, moving on to an actual winning team. Before we do, though, please like and subscribe. We got 45 people across all platforms. But moving on, let's get into some NBA talk. And let me tell you, there's been a lot swirling around with the NBA. But let's go ahead and talk about. We missed you guys last week, but let's go ahead and talk about the NBA Finals. Obviously OKC 1 win away from being champions. So Guy, what have you thought about the series so far? Do you think OKC is going to take game 6?
I think the series has been pretty decent. It's not the worst finals I've ever seen. Like they said, basketball purists are going to like this series. And for the most part, yeah. But OKC's been the best team all year, and they're just doing what they do, playing great defense 1 through 5, playing fast, downhill. Everybody can shoot. They're pretty tough to guard. I think they're just more talented and deeper than the Pacers are. Now with Halliburton getting hurt, I don't know to what extent his calf is injured, but if he's not out there, they're going to run away with game 6. It's just a formality. But I give the Pacers credit for making it this far, making it somewhat competitive. Winning 2 games in the finals is not shabby for a team like that who nobody had going to the finals. So I think tomorrow OKC is going to finally hoist the Larry O'Brien.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Halliburton, he says if he can walk, he can play. And I'll tell you right now, he's going to have to play. This is the NBA Finals, dude. You got to find a way to be out there. Gene, I'm going to let you go ahead and talk about your thoughts really quickly about what you think of the series so far. Do you think OKC hoists up the trophy tomorrow? What are you thinking?
So, so we'll start there. Series is over tomorrow. It's over tomorrow. Tremendous effort by Indiana, but this is also. I'm tired of hearing about Halliburton is a superstar. He's not that. You don't come into a game and have and do what he's done. I think it was 2 games. Every series he's had at least 1 game where he scored under 10 points. And I saw something else too where he's got 5 games under 10 points. Jalen Brunson has 5 games over 40 points in the postseason. And it just shows you, like, he hits big shots. We know that. But so did Robert Ory, right? Robert, Big Shot Bob, right, from back in the 90s, early 2000s. It doesn't make you a superstar. And as big of a shot he's made, that one that had that lucky, bounce and then went up like 30 feet in the air, came back down. He's hit some. Yeah, that one. Which I really would. I'd be honest, I really wish he was choking on something. But yeah. That was I remember we were talking while that game was going on, and we actually did the show that night. I actually filled in for Day. We'll explain what day it was in a few, but I was filling in for that day, and we were talking like the game was over. We're like with Knicks. We were oh yeah, no, and you were talking about you had them. I think you had what was it? You had the Pacers covering, right? Not winning, but covering.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. And then what do you know? Like they literally come back. And I think I sent you guys. Was it you guys? I sent somebody an inappropriate photo, a doctored photo of Halliburton choking, and on something, and it was one of the worst nights as a basketball fan I can remember in a long time. And I lived through my whole life as a Knicks fan, so you can imagine. But yeah, series is over tomorrow. Season's over tomorrow. I love baseball, but that's what we got for the next few months. So, enjoy this last game. And it's gonna be sad, man. It's gonna be sad to see basketball gone. It was a fun season.
There's just so many changes too coming with basketball as well.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot this off season.
Now I'll tell you right now, with Game 5, the one thing, Halliburton was terrible, and he's been just, for me, honestly, he's been kind of disappointing this entire series.
Except for one game.
Exactly. I'm glad you're on board with me there, but I didn't understand the last game. Why are you taking out McConnell? He's your best player on the court that game. And I'm not just saying that because I'm an Arizona player. He maybe a little because I'm a little biased, but stats don't lie. He was the best player on the court at that time, and to sit him out, I was like, what are you doing? And even Pacers fans were confused. He was having a record night. He was playing well on both sides of the ball. So that was my little rant, not my total rant for today, but a little rant because I didn't understand it. And when you see Pacers fans not understanding that either, I'm like, okay, what was going on here? But honestly, that game, it was still close. Going into the fourth quarter, they were still hanging around, and then with like 4 minutes left, they blew the door wide open. So I'm kind of with you guys. That series it looks like it's over tomorrow. I don't care that it's in Indy at all. They can probably extend it another game, but either way, I think it's going to come to the same result at the end. And I'm happy for OKC. I really am. They've been a fun team to watch. Obviously got the MVP with them as well. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. And in some more NBA talk, let's start with Kevin Durant. So they've been the trade rumors. Then you got the NBA draft coming up. And is something going to happen before them? So Gene, we'll start with you. What are your overall general thoughts about KD? Where he's obviously listed some places he has wanted to go. Mm-hmm. That includes the Heat. I think he's included the Spurs. He's also included the Rockets in there, if I'm correct. The Suns have been in talks with the Timberwolves. But ultimately, where do you see KD being the best fit?
Are we talking about those three teams that everyone has rumored to going to?
Well, out of those three teams, yes, let's play both scenarios. Within the teams I just listed, because those are the ones that are heating up. But if you have an outside team, I would love to hear that as well.
Well, I think out of those three teams, Guy, I don't know how you feel about it, but I would love to see him on the Spurs with the Wemby and you don't even know what the guy. Obviously, not going to give up Wemby, but they're going to have to give up Castle. We'll see. But to see him and Wemby together, that would be. I think that's the best spot for him. And again, it all depends on what you're going to have to give up. Like, is it going to be like Carmelo to the Knicks all those years ago where it decimates your team? I don't think that's going to be the case because I think he's going to basically be able to pull the strings. Today, there was a rumor that he pulled the strings to not go to Minnesota. Supposedly, there was a deal where he could have gone to Minnesota and Brooklyn was involved and he put the kibosh on that. So He obviously has some ability to call his shot where he goes, even without a no trade clause. I know he wanted the big rumor was he wanted to go to the Knicks, but the Knicks didn't want him, which I'm a little surprised at because I would have been cool with it. I'm not a KD fan. I've kind of disliked KD for a long time, but I would have been cool with the trade just because if we could have got him without giving up the farm, he could have, and he just did what he had to do and just score buckets and play a little defense. I would have been fine with it. I'm gonna be honest. I would love to see him in San Antonio. That would be the place I'd want to see him the most. Where else would he fit besides that? My thing is, where wouldn't he fit though? You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
I think he's the type of guy, and you've seen him firsthand because you're down that way. Mm-hmm. He's the type of guy that's going to go in any system, and he's going to score buckets. He's going to average at minimum 25 points a game. He's going to play a little bit of defense. He's on the upper end of the upper half of defensive players. He's going to make any team better as long as you don't need him to be the leader of that team. You're in a good situation. So I think he'd go anywhere, make anywhere better. It's just how much do you need him to do?
Right. And I'm glad you pointed that out. I've loved having him here. You know what I mean? But obviously the star of the show here is Devin Booker. He's my favorite player on the Suns right now too. Yeah. But I'm glad you pointed that out as long as he doesn't need to be the leader. Because I was reading and it was like the perfect quote. He's too good to be a backseat, but he's not good enough to be a true leader. And I think that summarized him absolutely perfectly. And you're right. He would mesh in anywhere. And anywhere would be lucky to have him. You know what I mean? He's great defensively. He's great all around. I think he's very unproblematic as well. Now, Guy, you're a Spurs fan. What do you think about him going to the Spurs? Do you think he's a better fit with someone else? And then let me pose another question to you. Do you think that they should specifically work with the teams that KD has laid out for them, those three specific teams? Or do you think they owe him that basically?
I think I'll start with the second question first. I don't think the Suns owe him anything. If whatever best deal is out there, you pull the trigger on it. You have your organization to worry about. You're not where KD goes. That's not your responsibility. And not even to do good by him by getting him to a good spot. He's been a mercenary his whole career, ever since he left the Thunder. So he's not emotionally invested in a spot for too long, and neither should the front offices be when dealing with him. Cut him loose wherever he goes. But as far as him going to the Spurs, I'm not so sure. He's obviously a future Hall of Famer. One of the best offensive talents we've ever seen, right? However, going to your point, having him on the Spurs makes him the leader automatically. Wemby's still young to be calling the shots with KD there. As long as KD is all right playing a supportive role in the leadership department, I think they need another veteran to provide leadership if they get KD. Because if it's just KD and Wemby, who's really going to take that leadership on? And I think it's going to be KD, and that's going to be problematic. But I like the idea of Wemby learning under the tutelage of KD and growing his game kind of like KD did. If he could get some of his skill set and apply it to his, I think Wemby would unlock another level or two to his game. But he could do that in the offseason to work out with him. He doesn't necessarily need him on the team the whole year. I think on a leadership standpoint, that might hurt, but the Spurs have the best structure, of hierarchy in the league. So I think KD would be, fall in place. But I actually like to see KD. It might be a little crazier off the wall, but I've seen crazier things, right? What if the Celtics made a deal, Brown for KD, just switch things up, because they're going to get rid of Horford and Porzingis. So that leaves a spot open for another big there. And, he stretches the floor. So what Porzingis did, they kind of like to shoot the threes. They kind of like modeled their game after the Warriors a little bit with their, all these 3-point attempts. And we saw KD most successful as a Warrior, where he didn't have to be the man. And Tatum, that's his team. He could just slot right in, be quiet, scores 25 to 30 points a game, give you his defense, and go home.
I mean, I'm a Suns fan, okay? There's no secret there. The Suns are just they're washed right now. They're bottom of the barrel. And so for me, I just want whatever's gonna give us the best deal because we have no picks, we have nothing. Besides KD, the Suns have no leverage at all. So you have to take the best package. And it's crazy because they've already mentioned that with the Rockets, they've offered them something. They're like, nah, I think the Timberwolves, it wasn't good enough either. So I just think the Spurs makes the most sense because I wouldn't mind if it makes sense for us and to honor where he maybe wants to go, which is the Spurs. He's mentioned that. I think they just have a lot more assets in general. The Heat, they don't have very much to spare or very much to play with. And you're coming into, honestly, a terrible situation with the Suns right now. You know what I mean? We don't know what they're going to do. We got Jordan Ott now, and we have Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and it's a mess over here. I'll be quite honest. And like I said, the Rockets weren't really offering much. Now, I'm really surprised though that KD wouldn't be interested in going to the Timberwolves considering his relationship with Anthony Edwards. And I don't know if that would be the best fit there, but it was a little surprising to me he didn't mention because Anthony Edwards, obviously part of the Olympic team. He's also said that KD is one of his favorite players as well. So that was a little surprising, but I'm with Gene here. The Spurs, I think, makes the most sense to me. And I think he's still willing to kind of be the leader, but more in like a mentor type of way and not necessarily on the court, if that makes sense.
It'd also be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot of fun to watch. Yeah, for sure.
But his age, though, gives me a little pause of concern because how much do you give up for, what is he, 37?
Yeah, he's about to be 37. And
yeah, he's 37.
He's eligible for like $100 million extension.
Yeah, so that takes away your financial flexibility. And you never know if he just says, you know what, after a season, I'm done. I have nothing else to prove.
And that's the big thing. Like, or I'm not taking my option. I want to go sign somewhere else. So who knows what he does? He's one of these guys, he's so like aloof and sensitive that the littlest thing could set him off and you don't really know. You don't really know.
Right. And there's plenty of teams that could use him either as like a finishing piece or a piece that will elevate their team if they're just that one player away. So hopefully that news is going to come sooner because the NBA draft is literally around the corner and it would make more sense to have a deal done by then. And I believe it's like July 2nd that he's eligible for like a contract extension or something like that. There's another deadline coming up.
I know it's very soon. I forget, but it's soon. So,
Gene, I don't know if you answered this. Would you be interested in anything with KD coming to the Knicks?
Yeah, no, I did. I did mention that. I think in passing, with what we were talking about, I did say that I would be cool. The Knicks obviously weren't. I think they have some of the concerns that we were just saying. That where would he be? Hey, Celso's in the house. What up, Celso? I do. Yeah, right. So I think there would be concerns, or I think they had concerns. Okay, well, what if he, do we have to give him a long-term extension where we don't know? We need to see how it's going to work out. Does he end up just going somewhere else and doesn't take a long-term extension with us? Like, there's so many question marks, especially for a team like the Knicks where they don't even have their coach yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's kind of irritating too. Is like they don't even have their coach yet. I think that's part of it. Like, he's a big personality to bring in when you don't even know who your coach is going to be. Do you know what I mean? Because that's going to be something you're going to want them kind of in lockstep. You know what I mean? Celso says no KD, please. Yeah, I'd want him, but I know there's difficulty with it. So like, I don't know if I don't want him for him. Like, I'm not a KD. Like I said, I'm not a KD guy. He's very Aaron Rodgers-ish to me. But
he's not that bad.
Oh, he's a jerk.
He's not having a documentary made about him and his comeback to, after tearing his Achilles or anything. It's not that bad. He's not doing ayahuasca retreats, 4 times a year.
Oh, Sean Overman in the house. He's a good dude, man. Yeah, I don't think it would take all that. You're not giving up Hart, OG, and Bridges to get him. That would you would never do that, and I don't think that's what it would take to get him. I could see it being being either OJ or Bridges, and maybe Mitchell Robinson and some more picks. I don't think Hart's, no pun intended, the heart and soul of this team really is. But listen, they go as far as Brunson goes, but that heart and soul, kind of what Charles Oakley was to the '90s Knicks, that's what Hart is right now to this team. Josh Hart is what Oakley was back then to this team. So there's no way they put Hart in that trade. And I'm not saying Hart's better than KD. We all know he's not. But for what he means to the organization, they wouldn't make that trade. I just don't see it. I could see Cat being in a trade for him.
Well, and that's what I think. What would happen is Cat would be part of that package deal.
Yeah, Cat's a lot like what A-Rod was to the Yankees when he came here. We brought in a star player, but we already had a star player that's been here from early in his career. And no matter what Cat really ever does, he'll never be better than Brunson, even if he is better than Brunson, if you follow. Like A-Rod, let's face it, A-Rod was one of the best ball players in the game. We'll forget about the steroid accusations for now with those issues. But there's nothing he could have ever have done that would have made him more beloved than Jeter. And there's nothing that Cat could ever do that would make him more beloved than Brunson. He could score 100 points in a game, tying Chamberlain's record, and people would still be like, yeah, but if it wasn't for Brunson opening up those lanes, you know what I mean? Brunson is our guy, you know what I mean? So I don't think that no matter what he does, he'll never be the guy here. He'll never be beloved here. And so it might make sense to maybe move on from that,
Well, staying on topic with the Knicks really quickly, and this is a question for both of you. Are you surprised they don't have a head coach yet? They've been interviewing some interesting candidates, and it seemed like now they had no plan. But
it's not a surprise at all. I thought Thibodeau got fired unfairly. Because if you do that move, you have to have somebody already in mind or in place or have a game plan. You've been asking other teams permission to interview their coaches, which makes no sense at all.
And they've been saying no. On top of that, no.
Of course.
Dan Hurley was like, no.
Yeah, because their front office is a little bit shaky with direction. The guy that brought you to heights that you haven't seen in about 25 years just got, tossed to the side. And I don't think it's really for basketball reasons. That's what kind of made me, you could say because, his rotation or whatever the case may be. But let's be honest. Like, they went to the Eastern Conference Finals with him. And he brought out the best in that team effort-wise. But, like, who are they going to really bring on this team? It seems to me that they're doctoring all these interview requests just to say that, look, we tried to get a coach, and Rick Brunson's going to end up being the coach, bro.
Let me address one comment in here because Johnny Boy wrote, good. I think he wrote good for the Knicks. They're taking their time. He's a Jets fan, so he must be taking their time like the New York Jets, 14 years, without the playoffs. I guess it's just a thing in New York, moving on slow pace. Gene, really interested to hear your thoughts. Are you shocked at all that they don't have a head coach yet?
So, it's funny to hear Guy say that because I had the conversation on the pop-off last episode with Woody and with Caleb, and we couldn't have disagreed. We couldn't have disagreed more. In fact, if anybody knows, me and Woody, we follow the same teams, but we disagree on every issue other than we just love the laundry of the we just love the jersey, but we disagree on every other possible thing. We're both Jet fans. We disagree on every possible thing that the Jets do. Both Knicks fans, we disagree on every possible thing the Knicks do. So that was a take that they had. I also think that I haven't heard a press release come from the Knicks that they tried to and they weren't able to. So was it them that leaked it, or was it the other side that leaked it to kind of build up the asking price for their guy? Because listen, just because they went out and they asked to speak with Kidd doesn't mean now that they can't really go and still trade for Kidd. They didn't say, hey, let's talk about trading for Kidd. Hey, let's talk about trading for Udoka. They said, hey, we'd like permission to talk to your guy. And they were told no. I feel like that's where the communication then starts for, okay, well, let's talk about a trade then. What can we give you to allow us to speak to your guy? Do you know what I mean? Because it doesn't there was no talk about picks or anything. There was no talk of, no, we don't even want picks. There was just like they asked, we said no. Do you know what I'm saying? If they would have said, hey, the Knicks tried to offer us 2 first-round picks and we said no, that's different. But that's not what was leaked. What was leaked was they tried to talk to us, or they tried to talk to our guy, and we just told them no. Now I think the next follow-up is the Knicks going to them and saying, listen, we know you said no, but now let's throw in a little sweetener. We'll give you a first-round pick and a second-round pick for us to be able to work something out with your coach. I think that could be what's in store. But there's also somebody else out there that I don't understand why nobody has really brought up that much. It seemed like he was a hot name in the beginning, but it's cooled off. I haven't heard his name mentioned in a while. Is Johnny Bryant? He's coached. He's coached here before. He's a hot commodity when it comes to the assistants. I think he's a guy that it all but makes sense is here. And I think that the Knicks are laying low until after the finals, because after the finals, they're going to go out and go get a guy. I think they already know who they want. I think they already know who they're going to get. Now, whether it be Johnny Bryant or it be one of these other guys that they didn't get to that next level of now discussing with that team about a trade scenario. But wouldn't it also be crazy if the reason why they're waiting is because they're waiting for Rick Carlisle? Wouldn't that be a little crazy?
Crazy, yes, but nothing's ever crazy in this league.
He would fit the Knicks, man.
Mm-hmm.
He would fit the Knicks. Now, here's where I disagree with Guy. Besides the other part, here's the other part where I disagree with Guy. Would I have fired Thibodeau? No, probably not. I probably wouldn't have had the guts to do it because you see the situation they're in now, right? But let's be clear. A lot of guys could have coached this team to be better than it was the last 25 years. A lot of guys. It's the front office that's really laid the stability and the foundation for a guy like Thibodeau. I don't want Mark Jackson. He hasn't coached in forever. There's a reason. There has to be a reason why. There has to be a reason why they didn't give him a long enough leash in Golden State. There's got to be a reason why nobody's wanted him since. So as much as it be a nostalgia story, I wouldn't want him here. But here's my thing. The last 3 playoff seasons, he's lost to teams that weren't as good as his team. He's lost to lower seeded teams every time. So even if I'll tell you what, I could have seen him having a better shot at keeping his job if he would have lost to the Celtics in the second round, because at least they would have lost to a team that was better than them. But 2 years ago, they lose to the Heat, which was a play-in team. Last year, they lose to the Pacers, who was a lower seed than them. This year, they lose to the Pacers team that was a way lower seed than them. So they've underachieved. If you really do think about it, they have underachieved every playoff season the last 3 years. They've underachieved. They have lost to the team that was not nearly as good as them. The Pacers, they're gritty, man, but they are not as talented of a roster as the New York Knicks. They're just not. No one's going to sit there and X amount of years and remember, Nemhard, or they're going to remember Neesmith. They're going to remember the Brunsons. They're going to
TJ McConnell.
Well, you'll remember TJ McConnell. I'm sure you have photos all over your apartment with him. But and I love TJ McConnell, by the way. He's a pest. I love him. He would be great in New York. He would be a fan favorite in New York. Maybe he's going to come with Carlisle. We'll see. But he has underachieved the last 3 years in the postseason. And you could say, how do you underachieve if you're a 3 seed and you make it to this conference finals? It's because he lost to a 6 seed or a 7 seed, whatever the seed the Pacers were. That's why. That's how. And so that's my take on it. Like, would I have fired him? No, because I wouldn't have the guts. But should he have been fired? I get why he was fired.
Well, I would say last year with Randall being hurt and Brunson getting hurt, that kind of hurt them last year. And I think this year, Cat's dynamic. They're a little softer this year. They lost, DiVincenzo and Randall, who I think embodied Thibodeau's brand of basketball a little bit more. So if they were able to run it back with that crew and Bridges, maybe they would have beat the Pacers. But, what I'm saying, Cat and him already didn't work out in Minnesota. So that move was a head scratcher. That's why I say I disagree, because I think the front office, I think they got the same guy when they got OG and Bridges, and they didn't offer any variety on the floor. They were just there to go against Brown and Tatum. And then once they did that, now it's like, we did what we came here for. Now it's like, we got to beat a different team in a different way. And they weren't built to beat a team like the Pacers with that fast style. They got to stick to their strengths, you know what I'm saying? And they didn't do that.
No.
But I think a lot of it is the players. Bridges didn't hold up his end of the bargain on the floor.
All season, to be fair. All season he didn't.
All season, yeah. You brought him in there to give you elite defense and at least, 20 points a game? Is that fair?
Yeah.
And he, if he brought that to the table, I mean, they're definitely in the finals this year. But I think some of the players let him down this year, and the blame goes across the board a little bit with front office and Tibbs. But yeah. I thought Tibbs earned another shot next year.
It's not unfair to say that. I just get why they decided to move on. I understand it. I feel like they were just trying to it was inevitable.
Yeah.
Here's a quick question, a little bit of a side topic for both of you, because I had this debate with somebody else, and it made me think. The Desmond Bane trade that just happened for KCP, Cole Anthony. You're chuckling, but would you rather have Bridges or Desmond Bane? I don't mean Bridges of this year, because he was not as good as he should have been this year. I'm talking about the Mikal Bridges that we traded for, the one that was in Brooklyn 2 years ago. Who would you rather have had, Desmond Bane or that version of Mikal Bridges?
I'm gonna let Guy go first because he was chuckling. I'm interested.
Yeah, I'm curious what the chuckle was about.
Well,
go ahead?
That price that they paid for Bane was kind of high.
I thought so too.
Yeah, I mean, no shade to Desmond Bane. He's a great player. He's an all-star caliber player. But damn, to answer your question though, it all depends on how your roster is constructed. If I need a 3-and-D kind of guy, I actually like Desmond Bane better because I think he's more consistent on the offensive end.
Okay.
He spreads the floor a little bit better than Bridges. I think if Bridges is your number one option, like he was with the Brooklyn Nets, then I'm like, okay, maybe I would do that if he's going to be the guy, right? But if you're asking me a supporting player, I think Desmond Bane has been that his whole career, and he easily fits into a lot of different systems. Bridges fitting in with the Knicks is a little bit of a square peg in a round hole.
Well, and I'm kind of
this guy, Certified Rob, is like a terrorist when he comes into these streams, man. Shout out to Certified Rob for Rookies of the Year. I hope you guys never have to do their show with them because this guy's a clown. I'm like it. This is like my son, man. I love this. He knows your cousin too, guy.
Yeah.
ask your cousin about Rob. It'll be all bad, I assure you.
Only real value of it is to that Phoenix. Well, Phoenix needed that pick. Let me tell you that much. Over it. I'm kind of with Guy on that one too. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. Like ever since Bridges left the Suns, I've like hated him ever since. I don't know why. I'm like a hater, the biggest hater, and I'm not even gonna lie. Like it even played a part into why I didn't really want the Knicks winning because I'm like, if we can't have anything, neither will you, type of deal. You know what I mean? And I just feel like that's when things started to like blow up. If I'm being really honest.
I mean, hey, it's fair.
Sorry, I know. I just can't help it. I mean, that's the whole point of being a fan. Your emotions get into it as well. You know what I mean? It makes no logical sense. I already understand. That's why you'll never see me bet on a team that I root for. I'll never bet you
on.
did? You've said that to me before.
I'll never bet on or against a team that I root for because I'm not thinking straight, you know? That's a good question by Johnny Boy. She's been in some stuff lately.
Yeah, they got in some little tussle the other day. Sometimes I'm not gonna lie, she is kind of a cry. I like her very much. I'll say that, but she is kind of like a crybaby. I saw the play and I was like, "You sold that very much." Yeah. And then you're wondering why the other players are getting in your face. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what she thought it was gonna be. And also, she's still like, what is this? Her second season? Yeah. She's still new. They're still showing her the ropes. You can't be afraid to like throw the elbow or whatever. You know what I mean? And there's been this obsession with her since she's been in the WNBA. You know, you had the Angel Reese stuff too, and it's all chaotic. I honestly though that play the other day, I was like, stop being dramatic. I really don't think she poked you in the eye that much. She sold it, and then she said something to her, and then got mad that the girl got in her face. I'm like, zip it. You don't want no there won't be no shit if you don't start no shit. Type of
exactly, 100%. And you know what? And let's call what it is too. I feel like. Well, we won't say reasoning of why, what is what, but I feel like she gets an exorbitant amount of love from the media. She's like a darling for the media. And then you have like Angel Reese, who everybody can't stand. But listen, Angel Reese is not a scorer. So like everyone else, she shot whatever from the field. Yeah, but she's a double machine. You don't complain about guys in the NBA that do that. She's a double machine. She's the third youngest to get a triple double in WNBA history. She's just not going to score 30 points a game. She's going to score 12, but she's going to bring down 15 boards and she's going to she's going to get about 7 assists. That's the kind of player she is. She's a complete package player. She's not a scorer. So I think she's very underrated. And I think she doesn't get people try to say she's overrated. No, I think she's underrated. I think it's a lot of people's have a dislike for her just because she's outspoken and she's having fun and she's living life. And you know what? And get over it. And here's another thing too. Everyone wants to put Caitlin Clark on this pedestal. Listen, Beckers is actually through this stage through the first 10 games of their career has actually put up better numbers than Caitlin Clark did last year. It's a far contrast. I think the only thing that Clark might have more than her was an assist. I forget the stat. There's only one stat that Clark has actually done better than Beckers. So, and maybe I'm saying
don't get me started on Beckers either. I love her. Like even my brother this past weekend was like, Becker's been doing well. I'm like, your girl is killing it. What you talking about? Guy,
listen, neither are no Sophie Cunningham.
Right.
Brotherists.
The thing is, Angel Reese, if this were the NBA, it would be no issue.
100%.
That's what I'm saying. Her attitude would be no issue. And I don't even think she says anything so outlandish. It's compared to Caitlin Clark, who's like this little angel. It's like the devil on the other side and like a demon. And she's so rough around the edges. And 100. I'm like, no, she's just blunt and straight to the point.
Can I put us back in the time machine for a second? I want to go back to when we first started, when me and Abby first even met, really. We were doing the pop-off way back when it was like 50 of us on that show that we just used to alternate. And I don't remember if you were on one of these episodes where we discussed it, but we started it during March Madness. the first year where she really the Reese and the Caitlin Clark thing really came to a head. Not the last year that they were there, was the year before. And it was when she was going like this to Caitlin Clark, and everyone had such a huge thing about, oh, you can't be doing that, and blah, blah. And it was like, yeah, but that's we said back then. That's one of the things that like the WNBA is lacking, is that something to be feisty. That I love seeing it. We see it in the NBA. We applaud it in the NBA. And now because they're women, they can't be feisty. They can't be, chirpy and chippy on the court. I think it's part of what made it. I think it's part of that stuff that's showing personality. And I think it's part of why we're seeing the WNBA become so much more popular, is because we're seeing so much more personality on the court. And I love it. I'm here for it. Like, I've never watched the WNBA before until like 2 or 3 years ago. And I look at this kind of thing of part of the reason why. You know what I mean? There's personality on the courts now.
Well, and Angel Reese has said this before, like, yes, Caitlin Clark has brought a lot of attention, but she was like, don't forget, kind of like me too. I've also brought equal attention. And she has with that type of antics and stuff, it has made it more exciting. Guy, I want you to go ahead and chime in here. What are you thinking about all of this?
Look at Rob again. This guy.
I think it's all good for the league. They need more attention and more eyes on the product. Before all this, let's be real, we weren't really talking about WNBA. Now we are. Caitlin Clark has a lot to do with it, but so does a lot of the other great women that play in the league. But Caitlin Clark is just the person that's gaining the attention. So everybody's going to benefit off of the attention that Caitlin Clark brings to the league. Controversial or not. It's eyes. It's almost like wrestling, right? It's like good or bad reaction, whether you have heat or they're cheering for you, it's good. But we're paying attention. We're talking about it. WNBA never had that leverage that it has now. It has really a chance to grow and really captivate the young ladies that are watching it now. And the personalities are what sell you to the game. Because, like, let's be real, if we're just talking about pure basketball product, you're probably not going to be like, yeah, let me watch a WNBA game. But if you could personalize the people that are on the court and have a vetted interest in their personality or maybe somebody you relate to, then yeah, now you're going to see interest and feistiness and rivalries spark, like the things that made the NBA great, years ago. I think the WNBA has a real opportunity here to grow their game, within the country and globally. They just got to be smart about how they market it.
You know why they pitted them against each other? I have no idea. They're not even the same type of player. You know what I mean? They're not even. I don't even see them the same way. You know what I mean? But I mean, I was excited. Hey, I always like it when things in any sport. Oh, hockey's obviously great. I love to see a good brawl. You know what I mean? I love when the dugout in baseball, they all clear. I love when the pitchers come all the way from outfield, running their asses. Like, and that's what I'm saying. I love that it was getting chippy. I'm like, I'm here for it too. You know what I mean? So it makes it more exciting. I'm not saying not promoting violence, you know what I mean? But
yeah, like I don't want to see a brawl in the court every game, but I just want to see them. I want to see them not be robotic. I want to see personality. You know what I mean?
Healthy competition.
Yeah,
100%.
So
Rob's a Caitlin Clark stan, so I can't even take anything that he has to say. He hates Angel Reese and can't stand Caitlin and loves Caitlin Clark. I can't even take anything he has to say for sure.
Staying on the topic of, first of all, like and subscribe again. Going to remind you guys, we got 55 in the building. Thank you so much for joining us. A lot more basketball talk is going to continue. So speaking of rings, LeBron, when isn't he trending? And again, went on another podcast, and here we are talking about ring culture, championships, all of that. So real quick, before I get your guys' opinion, if you live under a rock, he sat down with the Mind the Game podcast, sat down with Steve Nash. and talked about how the stakes are different for NBA players in terms of rings and winning a championship. He said, quote, "A ring is a team accomplishment. He doesn't know where it started and doesn't know why it's discussed so much in the NBA. And let me tell you, ESPN, everyone has taken off with this about their opinions. It's reignited this conversation. So, Guy, I'm going to go ahead and start with you first. What do you make of this whole ring culture? Do you agree with LeBron? Pop off.
I mean, I kind of agree with him because I'm going to say this. Anytime we're comparing greats, everybody just goes to rings all of a sudden. And it's like, look, rings are a team accomplishment unless, you're playing a solo sport where it's all on you and you get all the credit. Then yeah, you get all the credit. But to get everything right, to have all these things go right for you and actually win a championship is a very difficult thing. And it takes more than one person. It's never one guy. So, and any like GOAT debate that's ever there, if the first thing you talk about is rings, then you're not really giving substance to what's really being discussed. Like that should be towards the end of the discussion, which, either moves you a little bit up or down in the discussion. But if we're talking about talent, we're talking about like your impact on the game. I can't compare individuals by using a team metric. Like, there's so many great players that never won, that's never won a ring. And I'm not going to say that they're less talented than somebody that has won rings. Because like Robert Horry has 7 of them. Michael Jordan has 6. Are we going to say that he's better than Jordan? Are we going to say he's better than LeBron that has 4? Or anybody that has less? Like the rings debate is very flawed. And everybody obsesses with rings this, rings that. But it's not the end all be all. You know what I'm saying? And I guess what he was trying to say, and which I agree with, is that there's so many great players that have never won a championship or maybe won once, and they hold it against them so hard that they're no longer in a GOAT debate because they have either 0 or 1 ring, and it kind of like handcuffs them. You know what I'm saying? So like, and you can call me biased or whatever. I'm always going to say Dan Marino is the most talented quarterback in league history. He can make any throw. He broke all the records in the 80s where you can kill quarterbacks.
And receivers.
And receivers. They played actual defense back then. And in a run-first league, you throw for 5,000 yards and for 48 touchdowns. That was never unheard of. Saying now it's so easy to do that. But they don't ever talk about Marino anymore because he's never won a ring. And that's kind of the epitome of what LeBron was trying to say, is that you're forgetting about all these guys that changed the game. You know what I'm saying? Like that impact that Marino had, that changed the way the quarterback position was played after him. You know what I'm saying? So like, while we obsess with rings and they're cool, there's so many other people that go behind all those rings. So like the Tom Brady picture with the rings, which I can't stand, they had so much else there to help him get those rings. It was just wasn't him, is my point. But I'll let you take the floor, guys.
Hold on. Before we move on, do you think that because this is coming from LeBron, that a lot of people are kind of going after him as far as his comments? Because I feel like there's LeBron haters. We'll just be very honest about that. And I feel like that does make a difference. Do you think if this was coming from someone like, I don't know, I'll just throw out a name like Steph Curry, because it was just mentioned in the comments, do you think that would make a difference at all?
I think a lot of his motivation for these comments are because he's been compared to Michael Jordan his whole career, and it kind of gives him a little cushion because he obsessed with trying to get to 6 or surpass Mike, that he's not going to surpass him, so he's going to have to settle for 4. So yeah, like he's gonna craft this arguments for his favor, but I think that's his real motivation. But I do agree with him on a whole, not why he's doing it, but the argument that he is making.
Gene, before we move on to you, I'm really glad you pointed it out with the ring thing, because it does emphasize a sense of laziness in looking at the bigger picture of things, or like stats or anything like that. So Gene, I'll leave it to you. What are your thoughts on his comments and just ring culture in general?
So it's kind of like Rob said it in the chat.
Rob's saying a lot of stuff in the chat.
Yeah, he runs his mouth a lot, but he did make a little bit of sense just now. Is that not all rings are earned the same, and I do kind of agree with that. You know, Robert Horry shouldn't be looked upon as Jordan, because he didn't have to do what Jordan had to do. But it does come to an extent where you have to win, right? Does that mean I don't know. Does that mean give me a guy who's like a whatever guy, Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr is not he's better than Charles Barkley? No, obviously not. So there does come a point where you say there's guys that are the leaders of teams that win rings, and there's guys that are kind of just part of the team to win rings. And I kind of thought when I saw the clip from the interview, and I can't take credit for it because I kind of thought it, but I'm not taking credit for it now because Stephen A. Smith actually had said something similar. And he goes, if you weren't ring chase, like right now, you have no problem. You don't think you put too much emphasis on ring culture is what he's saying. But if you didn't really think that was true, then why did you go to Miami? Do you know what I mean? Because you wanted to win. So I'll give credit to Stephen A. Smith, but it's also one of the things that came to my mind was like, why have you been switching teams like 15 times? You know what I mean? Like, why did you go from city to city to city? You know what I mean? So there's a reason why you did that. So do we put too much emphasis on ring culture? It's a two double-bladed sword, because we do, but at the same time it does matter. So we do put more emphasis on it, but it does matter. If a guy goes out there, Patrick Ewing never won a ring. Do you know how much more we would look at him in history? There's probably a lot of people that don't even remember Patrick Ewing in this generation because he never won a ring. But if he had 1 or 2 rings, we would look at Patrick Ewing totally different. Like I know who he is because I grew up watching him and I'm from New York, but there's some kid growing up in, I don't know, Seattle that probably doesn't really know who Patrick Ewing is, but that's because he's never won a ring. We do put this connotation next to players when they have rings associated with their names, and the great ones. There's the guys that are along for the ride. There's guys that are part of the team, but there's the great ones that win the championships, like Steph Curry, like Michael Jordan, like Kobe Bryant. There's a difference to what that's for the great ones. It matters. For the great ones, it matters.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm here with you, Gene. Like, I feel like LeBron kind of brings it on himself because he also just like discusses it too. And like I said, especially when it came to like trading and trading to different teams and going to different teams to chase a ring. And then he also mentioned there was a clip of him from a long time ago, mind you. Opinions change. I don't want to judge, but it's on the record. He said he felt like he was the greatest of all time when he won like a ring. So he can't say that it doesn't make a difference. And I'm not saying it's fair by any means. I don't think it's just the NBA either. It's the NFL too. He was throwing out like baseball. Baseball, I feel like is a little different and things like that. And in the NFL, it's a little different in terms of, I think it's very positional in terms of a quarterback. Mm-hmm. You see a lot of that in terms of a quarterback. And I'll tell you right now, like just to give a perfect example, people love Joe Burrow. I'm sorry, what has he done? And I'll say the same about Josh Allen. I know I'm a Jets fan and I love Josh Allen. He's going to have to win a ring. He is going to have to beat Mahomes. He's just going to have to. You know what I mean?
If he doesn't, he'll be this generation's Dan Marino.
Yes, and I would honestly, I would absolutely hate that for him
because he hasn't broke records. Like Marino changed the game. That's what I'm saying. The pure passing before him, it was a run first league. Like Josh Allen's a product of this new age of quarterbacks. He's not really doing anything differently. And he has a better supporting cast than Marino's ever had. So it's like he benefits from free agency and you know, the new cap and all that stuff. Like the team building is so much different now that it skews everything. It's easy to put up stats now. So like
I can't sit here and say that he's got a way better supporting cast than Marino.
Hey, Marino didn't have a 1,000.
Marino had Duper and Clayton were pretty good receivers.
He never had a 1,000-yard back in a run-first league until 1997, which was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the running back.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Who also, I think, went to UCLA, if I remember correctly, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. That goes to show you that in a run-first league, he didn't even have that. So it was all him. Like, I don't think a quarterback was relied on so heavily, you know, to carry a franchise like he was. And back then, you know, like if you had a dynasty, and those 49ers teams in the 80s, they weren't going anywhere. They held those teams together. The Cowboys in the 90s, like it was very hard to break through. And even, you know, John Elway with all his talents, you know, they look at him so much differently because he won at the tail end of his career, but it wasn't because of him. Like he had Terrell Davis running for like 2,000 yards and carrying them that year, or those 2 years really. But Elway was like by himself going up against like the 49ers and all the other powers of the NFC back then, man. It was really tough. What they ask quarterbacks to do now and then was pretty different. So like even in the NFL and the NBA, when we compare players, like your era that you came from matters.
Yeah, I agree.
And the context of how the league was constructed, you know, because I think in the NBA, call me controversial, and I'll say this to the day that I die, I think Wilt Chamberlain is the greatest NBA player of all time. And it's because of the same kind of things. Like anytime you change the game the way that you do, like we're always trying to tear him down instead of celebrate him, right? We're always saying, oh, this is the best stats since the merger or since 1980. Like they're always excluding him. That's how much he dominated the game, bro. And it's like he won 2 rings, but in his era, he was up against the Celtics team that had like 8 Hall of Famers and Bill Russell. So it's like 1 guy versus 8 Hall of Famers, or 2 guys versus 8 Hall of Famers. Who the hell you think is going to win most of that time? And that's why Bill Russell is so lauded, is because he has 11 rings. But I don't think he's half as good as Wilt Chamberlain was talent-wise.
Or half as good as talent-wise as Michael Jordan and LeBron.
Exactly.
I mean, he was a great player. He was a great player. He
Hall
was
of Famer. Yeah.
and that's like I say it. But it does matter, because if Bill Russell never would have run any rings, we would look at Bill Russell way differently. You might not even remember Bill Russell. You know what I'm saying? Like this generation probably wouldn't even know who Bill Russell was. Like you'd hear from him from back in the day, but his name wouldn't have that legacy that lasted as long. You know what I mean? He needed rings to be able to still say Bill Russell, one of the greatest Celtics of all time. But if he didn't win rings with the Celtics, they just didn't win. You wouldn't build. I mean, we still maybe Bill Russell will still be a Hall of Famer. We still look at him in a great light, but not nearly the same light we look at him now.
Do you think you can even be in a GOAT conversation without having a ring?
I say it depends. I think it depends.
Is there any GOATs out there? Who's the biggest GOAT that doesn't have a ring?
I think it's Marino, bro. Honestly.
Well, I was talking in basketball.
Yeah, I don't think there is one in basketball.
And then you move on to, okay, well, this guy has 1 as opposed to Jordan with 6. Bill Russell has 11. I mean, do we think that we would look at Charles Barkley differently if he had a ring? I mean, we would know who he is because he's all over TV and he's the loudmouth on TNT. But would we look at him differently if he had rings too?
Sometimes the problem, this is answering that question too. The problem with LeBron is he acts like sometimes he's not getting the respect he deserves, and he is. He is. You're just number 2 in some people's book. what else do you want? And I think Stephen A was kind of talking about this with his take on it, but it's not like these guys aren't getting credit. Charles Barkley gets his credit too. Everyone gets their credit. I don't know what else he is really looking for. And it's not like people go back and forth with the LeBron and the MJ thing. You know what I mean? It's like in some people's book, you are number one. In other people's book, it's Michael Jordan. I don't really know why you care at the end of the day.
His ego.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why people can't stand him. It's like I was kind of thinking about this too. What else do you want? And I don't. And honestly, he's coming from a place of you want a ring. So shh. Yeah. I don't even want to hear it.
That's the weirdest thing is he makes this big complaint. You'd swear he didn't even have any.
That's what I was like. I was like, if you were seeing that for the first time, that's exactly what I would think. I'm like, I just don't know. What else do you need? What other recognition are you looking for? We all know at the end of the day, stats don't lie. We can go ahead and look those up and whatnot. But Allen Iverson.
You know what? Maybe
it's in that interview too. Allen Iverson was, and he was talking about Steve Nash. Well, Steve Nash was there, but he brought up Steve Nash.
Kobe was not overrated. Kobe was not over. I'm sorry, Kobe was not overrated. Kobe's one of the best ball players I've ever seen.
And he wasn't overrated either.
Yeah, I mean, Kobe was the last of a dying breed. No, I'm not trying to be funny when I say that, but he was the last. But like that Michael Jordan killer instinct, he was the last of it. We'll never have that again. And I blame AAU for that mostly, I think, because they all grow up as friends and then they play each other. Like how many stories we hear about these players today? They grew up playing, from the next town over, and now they're playing against. Then they played in college. It's not the same as it was. Yeah, listen, I don't have him in the top 3 either, Rob, but he's definitely not overrated. I mean, I don't know where people would put him, but he's right where he should be in my heart. I don't even know if I have a number for him. He is one of the greatest I've ever seen.
But I think Rob's alluding to like a lot of people are saying that he's like number 2. Like, like it's MJ and Kobe and then LeBron, or however people like to phrase it. Like it's a stretch to make him number 2. Like, I think that's a little high. He might be
I agree with you.
But like there's so many other greats that now you have to really like dig deep and compare. But like just off rip, like if we're comparing Mike and Kobe, like I'll take the original over like the imitation. And that's not a knock on Kobe.
I know what you're saying.
It's just that, he modeled himself to be like Mike.
Yeah.
And worked for him. He's had one of the best careers in the NBA history, right? But does him having 5 rings like elevate him? Let's say he didn't have any rings, right? Would you think less of him than you already do, or no?
No, I don't think so. Because I saw the emotion he played with, and maybe it's just me personally. I'm not saying how the rest of the world would look at it. I'm talking about me. No, he's not the greatest Laker because I think Magic's probably the greatest Laker. But I know for me, like again, the rest of the world might not look at him that way. I am my heart thing because I liked that style of basketball. I liked what he stood for when he was on the court. I loved what he stood for when he was on the court. He went from being a heel in a lot of people's eyes to becoming a face, not to use wrestling terms, but he did. He went from being a bad guy to a really beloved person, especially, towards the end of his playing career, after his playing career, he became very beloved to basketball fans, no matter if you rooted for him or not when he was younger. And to see also that kind of that from heel to face turn that he did was really remarkable as well. And if you say, hey, if you could go back and watch one basketball player's games all over again, would you want to watch Michael Jordan? Would you want to watch Kobe? Would you want to watch LeBron? I would probably say Kobe. And I lived through Michael, but I think with Michael I had too much heartbreak. That's why it's not Michael. I'd be watching myself being heartbroken again. But at least Kobe was on the other coast, and he didn't break my heart that much. So I probably would say Kobe in that sense. It does, and again, I'm not saying he's the best ball player I've ever seen. He's the one I would love to watch over again.
It is just so hard to rank half of these players from different generations.
I don't believe in Joe Hendry. He lost the title.
Right.
Any
final thoughts about LeBron's comments before we move on to the best part of the show, in my opinion. But any final comments about LeBron, ring culture?
I just think what he said was basically true, but it came from a place of insecurity.
That's what. Thank you. I think that's what it is. And honestly, I give LeBron his credit, but I personally am not the biggest fan of him at all. Even then, I hated that Kobe was on the Lakers, but I liked Kobe more. But guy wanted to clap. All right. So moving on to this wouldn't be sports rants with Abby and friends. Of course, if we didn't have our rants, which is the best part of the show. So we are going to go round robin, and I'm going to pick Guy. Go ahead and go first. What you want to rant about this week?
Okay.
Make it good.
Yeah. So, there was a kind of a shocking trade in the Major League Baseball this week. Rafael Devers from the Boston Red Sox went to the San Francisco Giants for pretty much nothing. Devers is arguably a top 10 hitter in the league, production-wise. And the face of, he was the face of the Red Sox. My rant is mostly for the Boston Red Sox. This is Mookie Betts all over again. You have a superstar player that you just sold for like cents on the dollar for God knows what reason. I think it was a communication breakdown from front office to manager to player, which we overlook so much when it comes to like winning. Transparency and open communication matter, because you're dealing with human beings. So Devers has an ego, just as every, star player does. They bring in Alex Bregman, another third baseman. So he's already feeling like he has to move off of his position, being the face of the franchise pretty much. So he feels some type of way. Throughout the course of the season, things are said, and now he's feeling more offended and more like they don't have his back, right? So I know the owner tried to have discussions with him and he was just ignoring his calls. So, out of nowhere, they fielded a call, or they called the Giants. I forgot how it played out, but they got Jordan Hicks, Harrison, like not guys that you wouldn't think a player of his caliber would bring in a trade, right? Kind of like Verdugo coming for Mookie Betts. Not an equal trade there. So the front office of the Red Sox, Craig Breslow, said that their team is better now that they got rid of Rafael Devers. In the press conference, he said that. He said that they're better now. I get that you want to be positive and give off this like false sense of we made the right move because of the clubhouse, and we're not going to take anybody's crap here. But I think it shows weakness in their front office where over the years they let some of their bigger superstars leave, like Chris Sale's another guy, John Lester was another guy that whether they left through free agency or traded them, they did not get anything to replenish either their farm or make them better in the long haul. And even though they won today, that doesn't really matter, because I think long term, that's a bad look for incoming free agents that you want to attract, that you might not have their best interests at heart. And there's some responsibility for Devers too, because he didn't want to switch positions or whatever, and he was kind of playing hardball. And now when he's with the Giants, he was like, yeah, I'll do whatever you want for the, you want me to play first base? I'll play first base. I'll DH. I'll do whatever. And he wasn't saying that in Boston. And I think it had to do with communication, how they treated him. And, that's when you got to say, look, man, let's not battle this in the media. Let's do it behind closed doors. And, they're suffering the consequences. And I think the Red Sox got a little black eye here.
It's just crazy that they've just wanted to build something sustainable and this was literally the exact opposite of that. And I'm pissed off too, because now you're in my division. And I'm like, God damn it, it's already hard enough. You know what I mean? Gene, what did you think about, were you surprised?
I think we all had to be, but I don't look at it as the same as Mookie and Devers as the same, right? Mookie, they didn't want to make that long-term commitment to, and with Devers, they already did. And I also get why they weren't able to get top dollar for Devers, because they got a team that was willing to take the whole contract and pay every penny of it. So the Red Sox don't have to pay any of it. That you're going to get less in return when that happens, right? So I get why they got less than maybe they would have gotten in a lot of other places, but that's also because now that contract is gone completely. Whether they should have traded him or not, who knows? But I get why they did. I don't think it was the same as the Mookie trade. It's just weird that there was no really like he's on the block. People are making offers for him. It was just like it came up. He hit a home run, and like 2 hours later, we found out he's traded. To the point where I think we all had to do a double take or all looked at it like, oh, this is not real. It's probably just a joke, right? So as a Yankee fan and a Red Sox hater, boo-hoo. And as my second team being the San Francisco Giants, I'm cool with it. You know what I mean? We didn't give up a lot. So, I'm not surprised completely about it. I'm just surprised at the timing. I thought he'd be gone by trade deadline, and I think could have gotten more for him by the trade deadline, but I get why they weren't able to get top dollar because the Giants are paying the whole boat. So it makes sense.
But I'm saying, like, you're getting rid of the face of your franchise, and like, because he was the man.
The face of their franchise just came up a week ago. I'm not saying he should be, but they're looking at it like the timeline's off. We've had Devers here for like 9 years, and we've got all these young kids that are in their first and second year ready to come up. It's like how like the Yankees did with the baby bombers back in, what was it, 16 or 17, where they traded not everybody, but they traded a bunch of the older guys that were still good so they could bring up Judge and some of these guys who didn't pan out, like Greg Bird and a lot of these other Sanchez and whatnot. It was somewhat the similar thing. Is listen, Devers has been here a long time. He's still good. We can get more for him now than if we wait 2 or 3 years. So let's get, and again, if you want to say they could have gotten more, that's a fair argument. But they also got someone to take on $300 million and not ask them to take, for the Red Sox to pay a penny of it. And there's the thought of the timeline just being off. They got like a million prospects coming up, and the jewel of their pipeline just came up a week ago. I think he's batting 0.8. So like whatever it is, I think he's batting 80. Is the question is what I meant to say, like from 2 days ago. So I don't know what it is now. So, but I do think they look at Roman Anthony as the guy, and they're going to build around him, and they're going to build all guys that are young around him. I'm okay with youth movements, man. The Jets are doing it. OKC did it. They're in the finals right now.
So why did they sign Bregman then for that contract? You know what I'm saying? Because
I would answer that, but that doesn't support my argument. So I'm going to pretend you didn't ask me.
No, because I say Devers is still young enough, and his level of production is like he was very like tailor made for Fenway Park. His
not
gap
really.
Not
really. Bregman's more tailor made for Fenway Park.
Well, I would say look at Devers' doubles and his.
That's fair, but he doesn't. He pulls the ball, which puts it into right field. Right field is a little bit harder for. But listen, at the end of the day, I didn't even think about Bregman, so I really have no option for Bregman. I completely forgot about Bregman even existing. So he hasn't played for how long? He's not going to play for another year, probably. I didn't even think of Bregman. Poor job by me.
Well, before we move on to your rant, I want you to answer Johnny Boy's question here.
What did he?
Put it back up on the Virgin. Does he miss Soto yet? Pop off.
Oh, not at all. I listen. If you want to pay $800 million, and I'm sorry, guy, I know this is your guy too. Go ahead, have him. You know what? He's already shown that he's not a loyal guy. He's already shown that he's nothing more than a shimmy. Listen. I'd rather have Max Fried, who's having a hell of a season, in contention for a Cy Young. And we have more flexibility to do other things. Like they have not done. They're not done making moves because they're not a complete team yet. They're not a World Series championship team yet. So they're going to make more moves probably at the trade deadline and probably next offseason. And then I think you see them go into battle the following year with the complete team. So I don't even think they're there yet. I don't even think they've begun to spend all the money they saved from not overpaying Soto like other teams did. Or another team did. So,
well, since you're already popping off about New York baseball, go ahead and pop off and give us your rant for this week, which I think is about another New York team, if I am correct.
No, it's actually about the Arizona Wildcats. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. You know what it is, and we touched on it a little bit earlier. And I tried to stick up for him because I'm playing devil's advocate. But today, the Knicks need to come up with their coach. You whether you fired him too early to help him save face for him to go get another job, either way, you got to come up with your coach, because what it's also doing is it's letting teams set up their roster before you even have a chance to. I'm not saying we would have been in the mix for Desmond Bane. I'm not even saying he should be on the Knicks, but there's a major move that just went down that you couldn't even be part of because you don't even have a coach to know how you want to build your team, what you mold, what kind of way you want to mold this team. We don't even know yet. So you can't build that team until you have the coach done. Now, I said it before, and I said it joking, but if it does happen, I want credit for it. And that's if Carlisle becomes the Knicks head coach. Even though I said it as a joke, I want credit that if that's why they're waiting is to get Rick Carlisle into the Garden, that I get credit for it, because I've said some other crazier things. Sam Darnold being one of them is becoming a Pro Bowl quarterback. I've said that for the last 3 years, and it happened. So I'm going to will this. I'm going to will this to happen. Rick Carlisle has to be our next head coach, because other than that, there's zero reason why we're waiting to make a signing. Because if it's Johnny Bryant or if it's Rick Brunson, that deal could have been done a week ago. So explain to me why we're waiting. Because we heard every day for a week a new name that we're all had jobs already under contract that we couldn't get, and now we haven't heard nothing for like a week. Radio silence. Explain to me why it's been radio silence, and if it is like Guy said, where they're gonna just come off and they're gonna sign Rick Brunson. First off, you can't have a father coach his son in the NBA; it just can't happen. But if that's the case, then why did you make me wait another week or two for it? You could have broke that news to me 2 weeks ago. And if it's gonna be, I would love to have Johnny Bryant. You could have broke that news to me 2 weeks ago. So the next head coach of the New York Knicks needs to be such a huge splash, make such huge waves that it is heard all the way in Asia. It better be someone huge that we waited, that we did it so soon, made a whole bunch of blustery noise for a week, and then just went silent. They're not even looking for a coach. It better be somebody huge. And it's going to ruin if they do wait until after another week or so, and they do name Rick Brunson, or they knew Johnny Bryant, who I don't think Rick Brunson will be the answer. I do think Johnny Bryant could be, but it will come off so much luck, so lackluster. It'll put them at a behind the eight ball already, because people are like, oh, just Johnny Bryant. Meanwhile, Johnny Bryant's a good choice. There's no reason why you have us waiting like a bunch of idiots sitting on our thumbs waiting for you guys to post who it's going to be. I want answers now, and I want them now.
Well, and I talked about it when we discussed this, the timing of the firing. I thought they had someone in mind, and I was like, it's going to come in the next week. And here we are.
That's what I thought. I think we all thought
waiting.
I think we all thought that the reason why the way they did it is they already had their guy. And you know what? I'm going to still sit here and say that I think they do. But at this point, it needs to be a superstar head coach. It can't be some guy's assistant that we don't know of. I don't want the coach from Memphis, although I had an argument about him, somebody recently, and Taylor Jenkins, and they proved to me that Taylor Jenkins was probably better than I remember him. I still don't want Taylor Jenkins.
Well, and considering it's New York and everything, it better make a big splash. You know how the media is. Can you imagine the cover of the New York Post?
If it's not Udoka or Carlisle, get it done today. I want to wake up tomorrow. If it's not one of those two guys, I don't even want Kidd. I want Udoka or I want Carlisle. And if it's not done now, because you got to wait, then just get Johnny Bryant in and sign him tomorrow. There's no reason to wait for Johnny Bryant, and there's no reason to wait for Rick Brunson. Rick Brunson's already on your staff. I see Rob chatting, and I can't even read it because he's gonna set me off. He's gonna make me have a stroke.
Hopefully, your next coach uses the bench.
That's a fair statement, actually.
You should put that one up instead of Johnny Boys. There we go.
Thanks for tuning in, Rob. That's like my little guy right there.
I thought you were going to have a heart attack during that rant. I think they heard you. I think the Knicks heard you from here.
Well, it's my first official rant. I had to come with a little bit of fire.
That fiery energy. I'm the rant queen, so you will never, ever, ever, ever replace my energy.
There we go.
So, got the Men's College World Series going on. All right. And New York Jets are the only New York team I like. Otherwise, I am a diehard Arizona fan. I'm a University of Arizona alum. And so, I was thrilled when the Arizona Wildcats made it to the Men's College World Series. I think it was the first time since they went in 2021. So they were returning 19th appearance. They were one of the hottest teams. And I was like, this is going to be great. The return to Omaha. Game 1. Pretty much get blown out by Coastal. Now, Coastal, in case you haven't been keeping up with this, they are going to the finals. They are on credit to them because they are on a 27-game win streak. Absolutely crazy. I'm so impressed with them. And so we had game 2 on Sunday. And things were looking okay. We were hanging around. Bottom of the 8th comes out, and the Arizona Wildcats just imploded like the Titan. And I don't know if you've seen that Titan documentary. It's on Hulu, and now they got one on Netflix, but it just shattered and you only found pieces of it. That is what happened to the Arizona Wildcats in the bottom of the 8th. It started with an error by Mason White, who's a hometown kid from Tucson, Arizona, Tucson local. Started with him, messing up an easy throw, which would have been a ground out. And from there, it was all downhill. It was singles. It wasn't even a home run, just single after single after single. And I get it when you have a runner on first and third. Yes, it's going to be Coastal and LSU. Spoiler alert. I'm going to get into that too. And it imploded, and I have never seen a more horrible inning. It was probably the equivalent of, the 5th inning for the Yankees in the World Series. I'm telling you, it was that bad. It took forever before we could record an out. And you want to know one of the worst plays? They had a tag at home. The pitcher dropped the ball, and so he was safe. And mind you, this was one of the best closers. They showed up a stat that he hadn't been scored on in X amount of innings. And I knew as soon as they said that, it's over. And that was probably the worst inning he's ever had. And obviously, top of the 9th, we got 3 straight outs, and it was super emotional. I feel so bad for those guys. They left it all out there. I am very happy with the way their season went, though. Came in hot at the very end. They won the Big 12 championship. Their first time in the conference, which is a huge deal. Our basketball team did the same thing. And then as you were ranting, I was trying to check up on the Arkansas LSU game, and LSU walked it off against Arkansas. They absolutely imploded. And so now it will be a Men's College World Series finals between LSU and Coastal. And I'll tell you right now, I'll probably just go for Coastal at this point. I don't like Alabama, SEC, all those type of teams. No, get the hell so far away from me. I can't stand it. But yes, it was 6 runs in the bottom of the 8th. And I don't think any of you texted me, but some of my Jets fans were like, absolute implosion. None of your teams can have anything this year. And I was like, thank you. Jets can't have shit. We get eliminated in the Sweet 16. The Suns ain't shit. The Diamondbacks still hanging around, but it's not looking very good either.
Still early.
A lot more baseball. I know. We got a lot more baseball.
Got a trading deadline to go too.
Yeah, and they got blown out today, I think 8-1 against the Toronto Blue Jays. So
in Toronto or no? Rogers Center? Yeah, the Rogers Center. They played their way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's my little spiel. It's more baseball. I feel like baseball is going to be the biggest thing lately. So what did Rob say about the Jets right now? They're going to get slaughtered by A-Rod in week 1. I've already addressed that earlier. Please stop acting like he's going to have a 400-yard game. He didn't even have that last
Let me tell you something. I will bet he doesn't even throw for 220.
Well, he hasn't. That's why his average was 218.
Listen, if he scores a lot of points, if he scores a lot of points, if he puts up a lot of yards on week 1, it's because they're down by 30.
Right. I don't think that's happening. And I think it makes a difference that the game is at MetLife. I do. And 100%. I'll remind you, when we faced the Steelers last year, it was still close going into halftime, and it was still close at that point. That's why I don't think it's going to be an absolute slaughter fest. And at that point in time, we didn't even have a head coach. Well, we had an interim head coach in Jeff Ulbrich, who was also functioning as a defensive coordinator. So he didn't know what he was doing.
He was like the scarecrow in Wizard of Oz walking around the sideline.
Exactly, yeah. And now he's Atlanta's problem. And clearly his son has been a problem.
his son also, right? His son also. Listen.
Sanders, real quick.
Yeah.
Got a ticket today, going 101, I believe.
Yes.
Already starting chaos.
In Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, listen. Why do you even need to speed? Listen, if I was these guys, man, I would just have someone drive me around all day.
Mm-hmm. You know what? On another note, too, is talking about speeding. You remember Henry Ruggs, right?
Yes. There was a story in the newsroom this week.
Yeah, he actually came. I think he got permission to come and do a talk, and he spoke about that whole incident and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
That was a totally different situation, but obviously still going at a very high speed. Crazy.
You know what was funny? Not funny. I shouldn't say funny because it's not that funny. But what was crazy about that story is I remember when he was coming out of college, he was the receiver that got the highest marks as far as character. They thought he was the best locker room guy coming out. He had the highest character coming out. Not just a team leader, but a leader of men. And so when it happened, it was wow. It was just a shock because you kept hearing all these things. And I'm sure he wasn't fooling people. I'm sure he's just a kid that was a really good kid. Just made a mistake and did something, did something dumb and unfortunately cost somebody their life. And obviously his young adulthood. So shame.
Right. Well, sorry we missed you guys last week. Obviously we are going to be back next week. We'll have a new NBA champion next week. Thank God. That'll be the end of that. Any final thoughts before we hop off? Gene?
I do want to just talk real quick about the reason why Dayo's on here. So just so anyone thinks Dayo is going to be doing he's not going to be here anymore. He's going to be on another show that we have coming up in development that will probably start in about a month or two. So time and day is not set yet, but it will be a show that is actually for our Spanish speaking friends and our Spanish speaking listeners and viewers. It'll be a show all in Spanish. So you'll get your weekly Pop Sports Network fix completely in Spanish. So if you are Spanish speaking, it's going to be good for you. Not me so much. I have no idea. I don't have no idea what they're saying.
Yeah. I mean, he's still part of the Pop Sports family. So
yes,
we'll also be around and whatnot. But that's honestly such a great opportunity and a good way, especially right now with the political climate, to kind of reach out to more people. So definitely love that.
Yeah, and I think he'll be great with it. So good luck to him as we start getting that going, and we'll let everyone know a little bit more about the development of it as it comes about.
And so, Gene, you'll be with us moving forward?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. The people seem to like you. Rob seems to like you at least.
Yeah.
So
That's my little guy right there.
Guy, any final thoughts before we hop off?
I know you guys talked about it already, and I know you guys are excited about week 1. Let's not pretend that it's just going to be a field goal fest. You know, it's going to be like 9-12. You know, quarterbacks are not even going to factor in the game. It's going to be a kicker game.
Fields will have more yards on the ground than Aaron Rodgers will have through the air.
Maybe.
Facts. That's bold. I love that.
I'm actually expecting the Jets to come out firing, to be one of those games where we come out so potent on offense that by that Monday we think we're going to the Super Bowl, and then it'll scale back and it won't be as great. But
The downfall.
Not that bad, but I expect this to come out guns blazing. I expect this to come out guns blazing though that first week. I think there's a lot. I think listen, I think that I just feel like I have a good feeling, and I think the Jets they're gonna do well under Aaron Glenn. I've drank the Kool-Aid maybe, but I like
too much.
I like Aaron Glenn. I like the pedigree he comes from as a player and a coach. He was a Parcells guy, which means I'm sure he's learned a lot of his coaching techniques from one of the best to ever do it. He kind of already reminds me of a Parcells guy, just the way he handles the media and stuff. And the way he handles his players. So I'm excited to see what he can do. And listen, you're always a joke of a franchise until you're not, right? There was a time way back when the Indianapolis Colts were a joke of a franchise. There's a time way back when that the Cincinnati Bengals were a joke of a franchise. There's a time way back when the Patriots were a joke of a franchise. There's no reason why we can't be a team that now goes on this terrific run. And
I'm with you. I'm with you, Gene. Aaron Glenn, like he's gone full force since the moment he stepped in the building. You know what I mean? So I fully expect him to do the same. Like that should be translating on the field. You know what I mean? He has nothing to hold back at this point.
100%.
But yeah, I was like, guy, don't worry. You won't be ready for Justin Fields come week 4. Okay. Monday Night Football game. You want to talk about a kicking fest? It'll be a kicking fest for you week 4. I'm not gonna let you. I'm not gonna sit here and say this team is gonna. I've mentioned this a couple weeks ago. I have drank some of the juice. Okay, I don't have a jug of it, but I've had a little shot of it that I'm like milking all the way until week 1. You know what I mean? But that's my whole point. I'm not gonna sit here and let anybody say that we're gonna get destroyed week 1. That Aaron Rodgers is going to have this exceptional game, because we haven't seen that in 2 years.
We haven't seen it in about 4 years, to be fair.
Yeah, okay. All right, to take it even further back, exactly my point. So what makes you think it's going to be any different this time around?
100%.
And it's not like the Jets
not wearing green.
Have peace. They don't have, it's not like the Jets are completely in shambles. They're in shambles at the quarterback position and some other things, but.
I like Fields. I think Fields is going to be good. I think Fields is going to turn out to be good. I'm optimistic about the season. I don't think we'll make the playoffs. I think we'll just miss the playoffs, but I do think we're going to finish in.
Miss the playoffs by how? What do you think our record's going to be?
Like 9-8. Abby, what do you have us at?
6-7 wins.
Oh no, we're getting 9 wins.
Generous. That is very generous. Okay.
Okay, I got another thing. We'll talk. We have all summer to talk about this. We have all summer to talk about it.
I told you I set my expectations really low, because I'm telling you, that team broke me last year. They really did. So, final thoughts from me. Again, I will. Let me see. A-Rod left the Jets plus automatically. I think our odds are the same.
You know what? I do want to say this, and it'll be. No, I just dropped it. It wasn't a throw. It wasn't a throw. I do want to say this, and we won't go into it, but we'll talk about this maybe next week or as we start getting into where we're going to be doing a lot of our preseason predictions. I have the Dolphins coming in last place in the division. with a complete implosion. I think you guys are going to implode this year, and I won't go. We'll go into why, when, and where, all the questions later on in the off season. But I just want to prepare you, Guy. It's nothing personal. I just think that you guys implode this season.
I wouldn't be mad at that, for the record.
Okay.
And then, to be fair, Gene had 12-5. I had 11-6, not any better. I'm truly embarrassed. I wish I could delete those videos, but I can't.
Yeah, it was rough.
I stood on business. So, and then final thoughts from me. Again, bear down Arizona. Very happy with the season for the Arizona Wildcats. Not the way we wanted it to end, but shout out to all the 8 teams that make it, because it's hard. It's very hard, and it's a tough environment. Plenty of good teams. So shout out to everybody. But we should have a good men's college World Series final down in Omaha. So very excited for that. So anyways, thank you guys all for joining us. Man, we've been on here for 2 hours. What a lovely.
Yeah, it's a long time.
I know. Follow us. So thank you all for watching. Like and subscribe. Follow us on our social media channels, YouTube, you name it. And yeah, have a good night, you guys. Bye.
Later.